Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Hey. Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets. Karl Bryan coming at you. And again, I'm Sans Road Dog today. Boy and I had a little trouble catching up. I was doing a little bit of traveling. So the show must go on. So my boy, Road Dog, sent through some questions. So look, let's get into it. And his first question, which is a good one, but you were the officiant of a wedding on the weekend. Did you learn anything? And so what's my answer? My niece got married on the weekend to her awesome fiance, Shania and Caden, wishing them well. So they asked me to marry them, and I went for it. And of course, I accepted that invitation, but it was pretty cool. Not sure how much I learned. I can tell you that I was nervous. That's for darn sure. I've done some speaking, so I didn't expect to be that nervous, but I was nervous. So what did I learn? In fact, I sent out an email a little bit about this, so I'll try and maybe go through some of the things I would have. On my wedding day, I learned heard two words, stuck with me. And those two words are together forever. I send, when I sign a card to my wife, it's together forever. I send her that text message periodically. Maybe I should send it a little more often, but anyway, so I send her that. I sent it to her the morning of the wedding. And I just think that's a great North Star for a married couple, freshly married and looking to build a life, etc. Let's face it, you've been married, you know that it is a roller coaster on steroids, which is one of the things I said. Nobody waits in line for a flat roller coaster. So enjoy the ups and the downs. A saying that I use a lot in business, and it was in my speech. And that's you got to look for reasons to advance, not retreat. Better your marriage, not the opposite for obvious. But anyways, look for reasons to advance, not retreat. I did give that some context, by the way, so it wasn't as weird as that might have sounded. People fear running out of money more than they fear wasting their life. I said, look, make sure your North Star is creating a wonderful life. For yourself individually and for you as a married couple and ultimately your family. What did I say? Yeah, nobody waits in line for a flat roller coaster. I can tell you that afterwards we had a few drinks and there was a bit of a party going on. And I had a number of people come up to me and basically repeat that line back to me. They thought it was pretty cool. Just enjoy marriages, ups and downs, enjoy life's ups and downs. Because smooth seas do not make for a great sailor. It's coming, so just accept it. People, one of the things I said, people, they value money before they have it, but then they value health when it's gone, like after they've lost it. Not a good plan. And maybe what I would call the through line that I mentioned a few times throughout the speech, which might have gone a little bit longer than what it needed to, but look, I wanted to deliver. I actually called a friend of mine who's officiated a number of weddings, and I asked him for a bit of advice. And what he said to me might be relevant. He said, Karl, they asked you for a reason. What I would encourage you to do is go off script and just say what would you want someone to have said to you on your wedding day, knowing what I've been with my wife for 20 years. And yes, she deserves a trophy for that, putting up with me for 20 years. But what is it that you would have wanted somebody to say? And what I said as again what I would call a through line. You know what a through lines when you do a presentation, you want to have like Tony Robbins will use the word so mastery. You go to a Tony Robbins event for 4 days, and he starts off that mastery is the key, and it's only like 2%. It's 2% above excellence, but nobody tends to go to that mountaintop. Um, so yeah, just, so he uses mastery. And then what does he sell you at the end, at roughly halfway through day 2, which is Mastery University. So you say yes to mastery 50 times, put your hand up, yell yes. And then he says, how would you like to go into Mastery University? He did a promotion not long ago, practically broke the internet. They got so many people onto it. And it was, trying Financial Times, etc. And he said, you got to create your own economy. So it's create your own economy, create your own economy, create your own economy. And then guess what? Do you want to create your own economy? Okay, put your credit card in here. So anyways, that's a 3 lines in my presentation. Might be scary, but, or not, wasn't my heavens, not a presentation, but in what I said to the audience, it's in 20 years, if your inner child is still alive and well, then you've won, right? So I just said, keep each other laughing, keep each other young, keep each other's inner child alive. And if you're able to say that at the end of 20 years, I think that you've done really, really well. And one of the ways that I try to do that for myself is I listen to stand-up comedy. I don't know, but I don't do it every day, but I can tell you that very few days would go by where I don't watch, 5 to 10 minutes of stand-up comedy. That just, it keeps me laughing. It creates some jokes for my daily email. Hopefully you're getting those. Hopefully you enjoy them. So some of the jokes that I'll hear from a stand-up comic, I turn it into a conversation with my drunk aunt, Dangerous Dave, and the team. So anyways, I don't think, was there anything else that I said? I don't think so. Actually, I think, so there's a quote by Albert Einstein. Probably going to make a meal of this, by the way. He's slightly disappointed, but what does he say? Like, a calm and modest life will bring you a lot more happiness than the constant pursuit of success that comes with it, constant restlessness, right? So like a calm and modest life will likely bring more happiness than that constant pursuit of success that brings anxiety and restlessness, etc., with it. So, and by the way, that could, you're talking to somebody who suffers wildly from that restlessness and that anxiety and, push, 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 push. If you know my story, my big brother committed suicide when I was 16 years old. In the words of a coach of mine, who's, a bit of a heavyweight and somebody who I really, really appreciate. He was T. Harvecker's coach when T. Harvecker was, crushing it. I'm sure T. Harvecker's still crushing it, but I think he's doing it in a different way nowadays. But he basically just told me, look, Karl, you're chasing a ghost. It's time. Your brother is proud of you. You've accomplished an insane amount. So at this stage, what he would say to you is, Karl, please, stop pushing on behalf of me, type of thing. Anyway, so there you go. That constant restlessness, that constant anxiety. Like I said, I push, push, push. So you got to be careful. Sometimes again, you're giving out the advice, like I said, that I would have liked to have got. So anyways, hopefully that provides some value. So look, that was it. It was an absolute honor. They're a lovely, lovely couple. They spent a week with us not long ago here in the Caribbean. And I got to tell you, they just laughed. Like, really great young couple. They're gonna have a great life, and they're just laughing and carrying on. And one of the things I also said, like, I was raw and honest, right? Like, they love hard, they laugh hard, but did they have a couple of disagreements while they were here? And the answer is yes. But guess what? That's okay. You know what? Like, this is the way they're doing it, trying to pretend like that's not going to be their path would be crazy. So I kind of spoke directly to that. Anyway, so there you go. Okay. Questions. Let me pull up my phone here. Give us an example of licensing done profitably. Ooh, road dog. There you go. Um, licensing done. I would have to start, I think, with licensing versus franchising. That would be an important distinction. So licensing would be like the use of a business asset. Think a trademark, a copyright, a patent. While franchising involves a more involved model that you duplicate like an entire business model. So you got the operating system, the brand, the marketing process. You'd pay an upfront fee, sometimes a very high one, depending upon the brand. Think McDonald's, Subway versus the local business, and you're their first franchise. You're going to pay an upfront fee, ongoing monthly payments for a franchise for support, training, and marketing assistance. Whereas licensing is like the right to use Mickey Mouse on your coffee cups, on your blankets, right? So then you pay a royalty for the privilege. And then Subway, 1-800-GOT-JUNK, McDonald's is a franchise where someone's using the system A to Z. Okay, so that's a franchise. And then a license is, trademark, copyright, patent, etc. Okay, so the best example that I can think of, and I think it's a darn good one, is the Blue Man Group versus Siegfried and Roy. Hopefully, I'm saying that right. Siegfried and Roy. So Siegfried and Roy, in their days, no, I'm guessing you know about them, right? They got the Tigers on stage in Vegas, right? So they got paid like, I don't know how much they got paid, but an insane amount. So let's call it $50 million a year, right? And they are on stage in Vegas, 7 days a week. And every once in a while, they take a week off for a holiday. But again, they're there, Christmas, Thanksgiving, etc. They're doing a show because, Vegas is busy. Versus the Blue Man Group is like I believe it's 6 people, right? They are mute, and then their skin is painted blue. So the Blue Man Group have like, I don't know, but like 70 people that acted as the members of, 70 actors that were acting as the 6. So they'd have like multiple shows running simultaneously around the world, like London, Beijing, Sydney, New York, LA, New York, Tokyo, Toronto. I don't know, like all the biggest cities in the world on the same night, right? So 10x the revenue of Siegfried and Roy at their peak, but they're paying actors hourly wages to perform. And Siegfried and Roy are making a pretty handsome living at $50 million. But again, they're tied to Vegas. They're tied to their location, and they're tied to their schedule being up there 7 days a week versus the 6 members of the Blue Man Group, hired others. Say one guy's 5'6", the other guy's 5'7", the other guy's 5'8", 5'9", 5'10", whatever it is. Well, they just had to get 5'6", 5'7", 5'8" at roughly the same build and roughly the same the same build, etc. So anyway, so that would be an example. So I'll let you guess which business model you would prefer to run, which one would be more profitable, and your instincts are correct there. Licensing, I don't think I could say licensing without mentioning Disney. Again, and by the way, it's an easy story to Google and understand at a high level. Which I would encourage, by the way. But like Disney licenses its characters and its intellectual property to a long list of third-party manufacturers and retailers. Think McDonald's. They get huge ongoing revenue without the hard costs, right? Like, remember, I built profit acceleration software. The magic of it, when you go to what's called the Jumpstart 12 and the 12 specific areas, one of the reasons why we picked the vast majority of the Jumpstart 12. And by the way, reverse engineered the biggest companies in the world, and they agree, and that's where it comes from. Most of the undertakings don't involve hard costs. Okay, so what does that mean? Once you've got your baseline of your net profits, basically everything, as you go through the Jumpstart 12 and you make these small incremental tweaks in multiple areas simultaneously, basically all of the profit goes straight into the bank account and stays, right? It goes to like gross profit margin, not net profit margin in a nutshell. Anyway, so again, so without the risk and the hard costs of producing product bearing the name, right? So think Stitch, Elsa, Mickey Mouse, Goofy. Like I'm not a Disney expert. Those folks might be like well and truly out of vogue, might be in vogue, I don't even know. But anyways, but no doubt you get the idea, right? And then what do they produce? They're producing toys, they're producing clothing, they're producing, bedding, home goods, etc. So again, the magic of Disney is they have huge ongoing revenue, but then they don't have the risk. They don't have not only the risk, but the undertaking of creating the hard goods. So frankly, it's a magical genius model. And that's why it's been one of the most successful companies for, Lord knows how long. And look, so if I was a business coach, by the way, I think that's a great question. I would want to understand the foundation of licensing and franchising. Do you need to become an expert? The answer is no. But not understanding these principles, I don't think that you're going to. I think it'd be really good to understand these principles to know, how to direct your coaching client to make sure, again, they don't. The worst, a really bad scenario is where somebody builds a big company and they achieve their goals of 1, 5, 10, 25, 50, $100 million, and then they're unprofitable. Like that's brutal because again, as those numbers go up, the company becomes a little bit more vulnerable, a little bit more vulnerable, a little bit more vulnerable, right? So anyway, so that I would want to understand that. And by the way, I franchised and licensed my own companies, and it's a really, really profitable model. Like I used to photocopy paper and get paid tens of thousands of dollars for the paper with some intense training, and of course some support, but there's no question about it. The margins are insane in a really, really good way. And by the way, so then you go, okay, well, what's franchisable? Like a company that is franchisable is one that I can teach you the skill in a week and have you quote unquote excellent at it, or totally capable in 90 days, right? Okay. So mowing lawns, could I teach you how to do that in a week? And could you be excellent at it in 90 days? Okay. The answer is yes. Guess what? Franchisable. Mobile car wash, right? Do I know how to wash a car and detail a car really well? The answer is no. Could I learn it in a week? The answer is yes. After 90 days of doing it, for 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, do you think I would be amazing at it? I would dare say yes. Guess what? Franchisable. Window washing. That was one of my first companies when I was a kid, by the way, window washing. Window washing. Could you get really good at it in a week? And then could you become excellent at it in 90 days of doing it? The answer is yes. Guess what? Franchisable. So cleaning, cooking burgers, of course, serving coffee, painting, junk removal. Okay. These are all franchisable. Okay. Chiropractor, not franchisable. Why? There's like 6 years of school in the way, right? An engineering firm, not franchisable. Why? Again, there's, countless number of years of school in the way. A dentist, not franchisable. And by the way, when I say franchisable, I'm sure, look, you could franchise it. Are you going to knock it out of the park? Are you going to become the next McDonald's, the next Subway? Is that the model that we would encourage? And the answer is no. Okay. So again, why? Because I can't teach you how to become a chiropractor in a week. Anyways, and by the way, like my number one coaching client, he does $30 million a year, been a client for a decade. And his coaching, again, his model, his coaching business, his entire model, I basically walked him into it, and it's a licensing play on steroids. So anyway, so the foundation of that, good question. And I would encourage you to understand it. Then, of course, he's got Zen thought. And again, I do a horrible job at these Zen thoughts. I'm pretty sure I do the opposite. But anyways, hey, here I am. And that's the question. Here's something from an email I sent out short time ago. What is it? Stress for you, it won't come from too much to do. It comes from ignoring things that you need to get done. Right? So like stress, anxiety, it doesn't come from your to-do list. It doesn't come from the number of phone calls you have in a day. It comes from ignoring the things that need to be done, need to be done, and they're not getting done. Think about that. So where your fee lies, your next action lies. So something you're fearful of, just run straight at it, straight into the flames. anyways, and then I said earlier, from the wedding, but like, people fear running out of money more than they fear wasting their life. That's one that you might want to get your head around. You might want to help your clients get their head around. Like, they're not lazy, they're lost, right? You might not be lazy, you might be lost. If you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. So, yeah, so there you go. I might have given a few Zen thoughts in my the wedding spiel earlier, so I'll leave you with those as well. And maybe, stop looking for business ideas. Conversation I had at the wedding. It was like, somebody was talking to me about business and going into business, etc. The wedding was actually at my house. So, stop looking for business ideas, start looking for problems to solve. And the bigger the problem, the more people that have that problem, the easier it is to find those people with that problem. And the more people that have that big problem, by kind of reverse engineering that or going through that process with you, it all of a sudden is going to make my life, it's going to be able to, I'm going to be able to predict how big the business is, how successful the business is, how profitable, very importantly, how profitable the business is. Remember, I built profit acceleration software. I didn't build revenue acceleration software. Profit is the domino that knocks over all the other dominoes. When you play Monopoly, you go to bed for one reason and one reason only, and that's because you run out of money. You don't go out of business because you run out of ideas, run out of opportunities, run out of passion. You go out of business because you run out of cash. Right? So, translation, you want to look for problems to solve. Okay, like it's Elon Musk 101. Anyways, okay, so that's all I got for you for then. Possibly not. There might need to come up with a new title for it. There, shoots their road dog. Anyways, okay, next question. Buffett retired recently. What's your best Buffett advice? Ooh, that's good. I don't know if this is Buffett advice, but I'm thinking about the wedding, and I had, there was a particular guy that I had a couple beers with, young guy, early 30s, I would assume, married, in fact, no, he's actually getting married next week. And he's got a 6-month-old child, and his fiance was there to do. Anyway, so I was chatting to him about business. He's a business guy, and he was just, we started chatting, and I love talking about business. So guess what? We talked about business, and we talked about it for a while. In fact, I spoke to a girl the next day who was over taking a swim, and she said, the guy, I'm not going to say his name. I don't know enough that he's going to care. But anyway, so he said he woke up in the morning and the first thing that he asked about was me, and he wanted to talk to me about, this, that, and the other. So I found that to be pretty funny. Anyways, what did I tell him? One of the things I talked to him about, the first principles of hockey, the first principles of baseball, the first principle of cricket, the first principle of lawn bowls, of any sport is the rule book. Okay. First principles of Monopoly, it's the rules. It's you don't understand the rules, you can't play the game. So what I talked to him about were the rules of business, like repeat business equals profit. I talked, profit acceleration. Again, there's three, what do they say? There's 3 laws of real estate. What are they? Location, location, location. If you were to say there's 3 laws of business, I would say what? Profit, profit, profit. So understanding some of the rules of business, because he was working real hard, but he might have fallen into the category of somebody who, confusing being busy with being successful. That's not what you want to be doing. So I kind of understanding some of the rules. So hopefully you're, and again, repeat business equals profit. Jumpstart 12, I have fundamentally those are the rules. That's the operating system that we teach, that we use. And if I were to get paid, if I were to take on a chiropractor, a dentist tomorrow, how would I coach them? And I've said this in multiple podcasts, but I'll continue to. What would I do with 100% certainty and without passing go? I would be going straight to the Jumpstart 12. Why? Profit is the domino that knocks over all the other dominoes. So you want to have good staff, profit. You want to keep good staff, profit. You want to have a 1-week, a 10-week vacation. You want to go to Disneyland, profit. You want to add products and services and really crush it. You want to dominate your local marketplace. You want to develop software. You want to develop education in your space. Well, the way that you're going to get there, like profit, profit, profit. Anyway, so the rules of business, I think they're important. I've created, an operating system that has 12 of them. But anyway, so I don't know if I got that advice from Warren Buffett, but I'm pretty confident he would approve. Um, here's some of the best advice you'll ever hear from Warren Buffett. He wants to find something for a penny. He wants to sell it for $1. Okay. Translation, huge margins, huge profit margins. Okay. He wants to buy it for a penny, sell it for $1, and have it habit forming. Okay. Habit forming. So with your client, with your own business, habit forming. So chewing gum, candy, think tobacco, drugs absolutely fall into this. You tell me if drugs are habit forming, unfortunately, right? So one of the things, I don't know if so one of the things that I have taken up lately, which I'm not sure I'm happy about it, that I'm taking, I took a couple weeks off, but then somehow, some way I got back into it. But anyways, I've got these little nicotine pouches, and I do have to tell you that they help me focus. That's undeniable. That said, I don't know how good they are for my health. And the more I read up about it, I didn't really think, I don't know. I started, I'm doing it. Bottom line is I've spent a fair amount of money buying these little Zyn nicotine pouches, and it is absolutely habit forming. So that is a business that Warren Buffett would get into. Think golf, think weight loss, supplements, that sort of thing. Again, when somebody gets started, do they want to stop? And the answer is no. Anyway, so buy it for a penny, sell it for $1, have it habit forming. Okay, so really, really high profit margins. And something that's a bit addictive, something that people, when they get into it, they really get into it. They have like an insatiable appetite. They can't stop going. Golf, I think, is a good example of what I'm looking to explain there. Things are not binary. Are you passionate? It's not, are you passionate? Like you're not, or you are passionate. It's not binary, right? Like it's how passionate are you on a scale of 1 to 10? And you might be a 10, and you might be a 7, and you might be a 3. Your actions will reflect that level of passion on average. But at the end of the day, things just aren't binary. Again, Warren Buffett, I think it's kind of one of those things that he talks about where, it's just not, the world is not a black and white place. Is probably better language for Warren Buffett. And you need to, and so what do you got to do? What does he do? He reads for like 80% of the day. Why? He's educating himself. Is he looking to learn the foundation and the principles? No, I think comfortably Warren Buffett is well and truly one of the greatest business minds of all time, undeniably. He's looking for insights. Okay, so when you have a really, really strong foundation, you understand the rules of business, you're using an operating system like the Jumpstart 12, and then you get a distinction, which you may, there might be a couple of distinctions that you've got on, this podcast or, some of the other podcasts that I've done, but you get like one distinction. When you put that on top of a strong foundation, it's like a force multiplier. If it's a 1% thing, you don't get a 1% gain. You'll get like an exponential gain because you're putting it on top of a strong foundation. But if you don't have a strong foundation and then you're constantly looking for insights, what happens? That would probably be defined as shiny light syndrome, going from one thing to the next thing to the next thing, right? So anyway, we're taught like the science of money. Okay, so let's call that the rules. But not the Jedi mind tricks about money, the psychology of it. Which one is more important is what I would ask you. Is it the science of money or the psychology of money that's going to get you further, right? Like I'll give you an example, like in 2008, right? The experts couldn't explain what happened or why it happened, right? Let alone what should be done about it. And, we're decades, decades later, thereabouts. And here's an exercise for you. You see if I'm right, right? Like maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right. Go ask three financial experts, like legit financial experts, and ask them what happened in 2008. Ask them why it happened, and then ask them what should be done about it. Guess what you're going to find? You're going to get three wholly different answers. And there's a really, really good chance that they're going to conflict wildly, right? Why? Uh, Psychology is there's not a rule book for psychology. That's the beauty. It's an art, not a science, right? Um, but my best guess reason, is that um, it's that it's again, it's not binary. It's psychology over science. Look, um, that would be the answer, right? And then Warren Buffett would say, like, one of the things, if speaking of psychology of money, he would say, what you got to do is hurry up and wait. What does he mean by that? Compounding, right? They call it the eighth wonder of the world, compounding. You got to have compounding working in your favor, right? It's like the rule of seven, right? So if you get a 10% return, you will double your money every 7.2 years. But the magic is that 10 becomes 20, which becomes 40, which becomes 80, which becomes 160, and it continues. So like you double a penny every day for 30 days, what happens? You end up with over 5 million bucks. That's the magic of compounding. If somebody's never heard that example before, their automatic question is, how do the numbers get so big so fast? Right? But the problem with compounding is what? And again, when I built my software, this is one of the things that we studied, right? Is compounding. And then if you go to the first principle of compounding, you're going to find marginal utility theory. And simply put, question, how many business owners do you know that have 10 years to wait? Okay, hurry up and wait. It sounds good from Warren Buffett. He's worth, over $100 billion. And he's over 90 years old, by the way. One of the things, again, he'll tell you, one of the great secrets of his wealth is living, to 90. And Charlie Munger would say the same. May he rest in peace, by the way. He passed away at 99. I say poor bugger, but my gosh, what an amazing life and what an amazing legacy he's left, right? But anyway, so compounding, they don't have 10 years. So marginal utility theory is what? It's basically compounding, but you don't need to use the time. So what does it mean? You go small incremental changes in multiple areas simultaneously, and then you get a compounding financial result without the use of time, right? So again, and by the way, internally, guess what we refer to that as profit acceleration, right? So the software, that's literally the foundation of the software. But at the end of the day, so Warren Buffett, look, and Warren Buffett, as I'm speaking to you as a coach, as a consultant, Warren Buffett is a consultant all day long and twice on Sunday. He invests time and money in businesses that he can influence positively, right? So his financial numbers are a little bit different than what yours and mine might be. But at the end of the day, he's a consultant. He's a business consultant. And again, if he doesn't give you money if he doesn't think he can, improve your business, if he doesn't have experience. That's why he didn't go into Bitcoin. He didn't understand it, didn't believe in it, didn't touch the stuff, right? And by the way, he might be proven horrifically incorrect, which I think that ship might have already sailed. But at the end of the day, he didn't understand it, so he didn't go into it, right? He invests in things that he understood. He understood Coca-Cola. He understood Apple. He understood seeds, they're called seeds, the candy biz. He loves candy. He'll tell you that he loves candy, and that's what he invested in. At the end of the day, though, he's a business consultant all day long. And by the way, give me another industry where you can sign autographs after the age of 50. And I can tell you, outside of owning a sports franchise, you're going to struggle to find one. Well, becoming a business consultant is one of those. Just think Mark Cuban, Barbara Corcoran, Mr. Wonderful, the folks on Shark Tank, etc. And at the end of the day, again, those guys are business consultants. They invest time and money in businesses that they understand, that they believe in, that they feel like they can move the needle, that their Rolodex will provide some value, right? Warren Buffett, so many. But his two rules, what are his two rules? Rule number one, don't lose money. Rule number two, see rule number one. Again, I always say it sounds like a throwaway line, anything but. That is the guiding, that's his North Star. That was like his guiding principle of somebody who's, worth well north of $100 billion. Don't lose money with your investments. And by the way, I took those two rules and I tried to create two rules for business. And what I came up with is rule number one, get clients. Rule number two, keep clients. That's Tesla, Amazon, Ford, Coke, your company, my company, Road Dog's company, etc. Two rules. Rule number one, you got to get clients. Rule number two, you got to keep clients. When I go through your P&L and I look at your expenses, the way that I know what I can peel away is that I ask you two questions. I say, does it get a client? Does it keep a client? So I'm going through your itemized expenses on your P&L. I ask those two questions. Does it get a client? Does it keep a client? Does it get a client? Does it keep a client? The answer is no. We can basically put a line through it. Okay. Where does that come from? Two rules. Don't lose money. Don't be spending money and harming your P&L and your profit margins by spending money on things like magazine subscriptions that do not move the needle in any way. And oftentimes you're not even, the magazine's going to the wrong location or whatever it might be. I would also say this about Warren Buffett that I don't think is credited to him. The reality is that he built a very powerful personal brand, and it doesn't seem to be what's associated to him, but he's, just think grandpa. At the end of the day, if you really understand his story, like the man's pretty, in business, if you did business with him, early on, let me tell you, he was going to be getting a good deal, mean negotiator, a smart negotiator, a very good operator, right? So he built a really personal brand, which is important. Remember, Tony Robbins gets paid for who he is more than what he does, right? You want to build a personal brand. You want to be getting paid for who you are as opposed to what you do, right? That's a powerful as a business coach. That's why should you do local live events? Because it gives you a compounding effect. One of the programs that we have internally at focus.com is called Local Legends. What is it? You do a local live event every single week. And what ends up happening, you become a local legend. You go to the mall and then somebody stops you and, oh, I went to your presentation. Awesome. You still doing them? It was amazing. Do. Some people will buy from you and some people won't. By educating the community and taking that very seriously and looking to move the needle on behalf of local businesses, very, very powerful. So anyway, so building a personal brand. So, Elon Musk at the end of the day, I mean, he literally bought Twitter, as part of his personal branding exercise. I don't know that there was a lot more reasons than that he bought it, but, he sends out a tweet and everybody sees it. Right? Do you still call it a tweet? Like, what do we call it? An X, whatever. Who knows? Who cares? Okay, this is a saying that I use. I don't know if I can directly attribute this to Warren Buffett, but like insane speed requires incredible clarity. Most business owners that you're going to work with, and it might be you, they struggle with clarity. The more clear you get, the easier to, when you know exactly what you want, and you know exactly where you're going, and you know exactly what your North Star is, it becomes really, really easy to know what to say yes to and what to say no to. The example that I've given like plenty is like Zuckerberg in his early days. He says, does it help us grow? That was his North Star. So if you called a meeting with him, he would just simply go, will this help us grow? And if the answer was yes, you'd get the 15 minutes. If the answer was no, he would decline. It's that simple, right? Gary Vaynerchuk, does it get me attention? If you've got a room of 100 people and I've got a room of 1,000 people, and then somebody else has got a room of 10,000 people, which room is he going into? The room of 10,000 people, right? So insane speed. If you want to go fast, you need to be clear. Let's put it that way. Okay, this is just coming to my mind again. I don't know if this is Warren Buffett's, but he would he said it in different ways and he would absolutely agree with that. But that's, you got to get focused, right? And again, I literally named my company. I bought the domain name many, many, many years ago, focus.com. Why? Because I needed focus, like dead set. I woke up in the morning and I was just like, gosh, I have got to get focused. And I just went searching. I own a lot of domain names, and I, was, pretty active in buying domain names way back when. Still am a little bit, not nearly what I was, but anyway, I still own them all, and I think they're a wildly good investment, which I've said before. Not financial advice. Educate yourself. But at the end of the day, so I needed to get focused, right? So the problem with focus is it's an abstract thing. It doesn't really exist. So if you say to me, okay, Carl, I need to get focused, and you literally name your company is focus.com, help me, I would go to eliminating distractions before I would go dialing in your focus, right? So yes, insane speed is going to require you to get incredibly clear. But if you really, really want to get focused, one of the first things that I'm going to do is I'm going to eliminate your distractions. Real easy one for me to bring up is Facebook, right? Instagram, TikTok, right? A business area, solitaire on the phone, right? Just my heavens, video games. You got to eliminate. By the way, in some cases, look, what does Buddha say? Everything in moderation, including moderation, right? It was like I quit drinking some time ago. I took 10 months off. I didn't plan to I just stopped drinking, right? I was just like, you know what? I didn't plan to start. Yeah, I didn't have a plan, right? I just quit. I knew that this wasn't doing me. I just wasn't, I was over it. And I stopped drinking. And then I got to 10 months, and then I went on a fishing trip with my best bud and my brother. Just basically I've had the same best friend since I was 8 years old. So we're like brothers, and his older brothers, like my brother, we're like family. The other day I went on a fishing trip, and I just didn't want to be the guy on the fishing trip, on our annual trip, and not having a beer. You know what I mean? That didn't make sense to me. Right. And then I come back to everything in moderation, including moderation. So the conclusion that I came to was that, yeah, I don't want to be I'm not like Tuesday night and I've never been the guy for the most part drinking on a Tuesday night. That's not really happening for me. But on a Saturday, when all the boys are around, the truth is if I pound 10 beers and I got a hangover the next day and I can't, you know what I mean, hang out with my family and go to the beach or do something fun, like that's really lame. Having 2 beers, 3 beers and hanging out with my buds and kind of being social and telling funny stories and making each other laugh and, doing goofy things and watching them do goofy things or whatever that's going to look like. That's a net positive for my life. And that might not be a net positive for your life. And it might be, and it might, you know what I mean? Like it's for everybody, but everything in moderation, including moderation, is what, Buddha says. So should you never go on Facebook? I don't know. I don't think that's maybe not the right answer for you. And I spend too much time on that stupid Facebook, by the way. So just, let's be clear here. I do try to keep it to a minimum, but at the end of the day, eliminating distractions. So like, playing video games, if that's something that really relaxes you, then I'm going to say, okay, well, don't exit. But maybe what you want to do is just make sure it's done in moderation once in a while, as opposed to every night for, a couple hours. I think that's a net negative for your family, net negative for you, net negative for your, ambitious nature. If you're listening to this, I would be amazed if you don't have one of those ambitious natures, that bit of an insatiable appetite for success. So I think that if that relaxes you, then do it, but keep it in moderation. But focus. If I want to get you focused, I want to go to your distractions first. And when I eliminate the distractions, I think your ability, the opportunity for you to become focused, dramatically increase. Warren Buffett, you'll make more money in bull markets than you'll lose in bear markets. Okay. Translation, invest. Again, for your future. And you might think that, there's a good chance you're listening to that and you go, yeah, but I've already missed the boat. You know what I mean? I'm 40 years old. I'm 45 years old. I'm 50 years old. I'm 60 years old. You know what? The 10 years is going to go by anyways. Invest. That's just, I can't, and what do you invest in? Look, you educate yourself. But at the end of the day, you're investing in real estate, you're investing in the stock market, you're investing in, and it might be crypto, it might be NFTs, it might be domain names. But at the end of the day, I'd be, sports memorabilia. A buddy of mine makes a whole lot of money collecting like Gretzky rookies and, baseball cards, hockey cards, sports memorabilia. That can be a good place to invest. And by the way, though, if you don't educate yourself, you're probably going to get, taken advantage of. If you don't invest in things that you understand. That's what I would say. Invest in your own, by the way. So you should invest in your own bloody company, right? So hire somebody. Most people say, I say you got to hire somebody, and they say, I'll hire somebody when I'm ready. I'll say, you're never going to be ready. Answers come first. Reasons come first. Answers come second, right? Reasons come first. Answers come second. Okay. In closing, I think this might be, no, I don't know if this is the best advice, because I don't know. Look, here's what will dictate success over all else, according to Warren Buffett. I don't know if this is exact, but I'm pretty damn close, and he's absolutely said this in different ways. What will dictate success over all else, certainly in investing, is when you start. The trick is you gotta start. Momentum is a force multiplier. Just start, right? So that as a business coach, what do you got to start? You got to start going to the networking functions. You got to start throwing the parties. You got to start doing the events. You got to start signing up the clients. You've got to start working with the clients. Hopefully, again, if you're going to work with the clients, you're using an operating system. You're using a system. You're not just, motivating them on a Tuesday at 2:00. That's a great way to lose your client in 90 days. And they'll say it's overwhelmed, but it's just that they don't understand what to do, when to do it, how to do it, etc. So you want to have an operating system that you're using. And then again, if you want to keep a client for years instead of months, look, clients that stick around are profitable. Make them significantly more profitable and they stick around. If they don't realize wild profits, my experience is, the data says, frankly, the science, I think it's just common sense, but you end up losing clients. So profit. Because look, money ultimately gives you options. What is your client looking for? They're looking for options, right? The happiest people have got a lot of options, right? You want to move to the Caribbean. You want to move to Vegas. You want to move to a different country. You want to go on a 1-month cruise. You want to take your family to Disneyland. You want to hire the staff member. You want to step back. Options. These are options. But where do they come from? Profit. Remember, profit is the domino that knocks over all the other dominoes. If you want to have if you want to have options, and again, the happiest people in the world have lots of options. How are you going to get it? How's your coaching client going to get it? How's your consulting client going to get it? The answer is profit. And maybe, so if you want to accomplish something really big, like a monumental task, like you want to change the game, you want to do, an Uber, an Amazon, an Elon Musk, and you really want to move the needle, you'll need to give up some control. Warren Buffett only owns a small percentage of Berkshire Hathaway. Musk only owns a small percentage of Tesla. Bezos only owns a small percentage of Amazon. And apparently it's working out pretty damn good. So if you want to accomplish something really big, you'll need to give up a little bit of control. So there you go. That's what I got. I don't know how long I went there, but hopefully that provides some value. I look forward to speaking to you guys on the next podcast. And as Road Dogg says at the end of every podcast, progress equals happiness. Go create some progress. Thanks, folks. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.